Okay, so let's look at example 1. So our given function is f of x equals x to the 5th. The first thing that they want us to do in step 1 is to find f of negative x and negative f of x. So I'm going to color code these so we can see which one we're doing first. So the first thing we're going to do is find f of negative x, which means every time I get to an x, I'm going to replace it with negative x. Okay, so when I do that, I get anything to any negative to an odd power is going to be negative. So this becomes negative x to the 5th. Okay, so I've done the very first part. Okay, the second time around they want me to take and they want me to find negative f of x, which means I'm going to negate this entire function. So here I wrote my negative first, so I'm going to write my negative first here, and then I'm going to write f of x, and f of x was originally x to the 5th. Okay, once I distribute my negative, I get negative x to the 5th. Okay, at this point we're going to do a comparison. We're going to look and see, like in step 2, are these things equal? So if I compare this and I compare this, are those the same equation? Does negative x to the 5th equal negative x to the 5th? Yes. Therefore, we can say that it has symmetry with respect to the origin. So it is symmetric with respect to the origin. Okay, so that is example 1. Okay, let's look at another example. Okay, so let's look at this example. Here is our given function. Okay, so g of x equals x over 1 minus x. Okay, again, they're just wanting to know if this is symmetric with respect to the origin. So the very first thing we're going to do is we're going to find f of negative x. Okay, so every time I see an x in this original function, I'm going to replace it with negative x. So on top, I have negative x all over 1 minus negative x. So every time I got to an x, I replaced it with negative x. Now all I have to do is just kind of clean this up. So f of negative x equals negative x on top, and a negative times a negative makes a positive, so I have 1 plus x. So there's my first one. Okay, so let's try the next one. Negative f of x. So basically, I'm going to negate everything. So negative times x minus 1. Okay? All I'm going to do is distribute the negative here. So negative f of x becomes negative x over 1 minus x. Now, let's talk about this, because for some reason, a lot of us seem to think that we're going to take this negative to the top and every little single piece on the bottom. Well, here would be an example. So think about if I have 1/2 and I tell you to multiply it times a negative. That would equal negative 1/2. Does everybody agree? I don't take the negative to the negative 1 and then to the negative 2 on the bottom, and that would make a positive 1/2. I don't do any of that, right? So don't try to make up new rules. This negative just goes to this whole entire thing as a whole. We do not negate each individual thing. Okay, so go back to what we know about our fractions, and if I multiply a fraction by the negative, the whole thing becomes negative. We do not switch individual top and bottom. Okay, so do not look at that. All right, so now our last step is to look at these and compare them and see. So I'm comparing f of negative x and negative f of x to see, are these the same? They are not the same. This one's a positive, this one's a negative, so these are not symmetric. And if we look at our graph over here, we can see that the origin's right here, and obviously these are not symmetric. Okay, so there was a shift which is going to cause these to move. This one is not going to be symmetric around the origin. Okay. All right, so we're going to stop there for now. So in your homework packet, you should have page 134, and you are going to do numbers 6 through 7, 14 through 19.